All right. Thank you, Matthew, very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Really pleased to have with us today Big Al Gillespie. Al,
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah. Thanks for having me, Brice. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's a big event for us, and to have a headliner like you really makes content so much stronger. So, I look forward to chatting with you on all things automotive. So let's jump in. So
Okay.
for all the folks joining us here, if you could, Big Al, maybe give us a little bit of your background. Tell us about yourself.
Well, there's really not much to say. I'm a pretty boring person, but no, I've actually been in the automotive retail side of things for a little over 22 years now. Started off selling cars, didn't have two nickels in my pocket and just, went in and hustled. Within a couple of years, I got promoted to management, so I, did a little bit of everything there, did finance, did sales manager, was a GSM, started up BDCs. Actually, I came to work for Jay in the Feldman Automotive Group a little over 10 years
Hmm.
ago. And that was actually the role I came in to do was help set up their BDCs. And then,
And that was 10 years ago.
yeah, yeah, gosh, time flies. But then, just, oversaw that. And then, marketing, I always self-marketed myself. Obviously, I got named as Big Al. So I've just always leaned towards that. And, and just, it's one of those things I just kind of moved into that role with our company, and so it's like it's been a lot of growth here, obviously partnering with Mark Wahlberg about 4 years ago when we started the stores in Ohio, and we continue to
That
grow.
kind of puts the pressure on, right? Like, yeah, Big Al's got a bigger name now
It's
to be able to market, which is which is really helpful,
it's
I'm sure.
interesting, it's a fun thing to play with all the time, that's for sure. But yeah, that's my history. I've got a wife that we're celebrating 15 years of marriage
Congrats.
this week here, and then two boys who just boy, they keep me exhausted, man. My youngest is doing travel hockey right now, and so that's on
I,
top of
I, I,
being expensive. It's just a lot of traveling.
So lived in Massachusetts before moving to Chapel Hill, and all my travel hockey friends have told me. I mean, not only is it 5 a.m., right? It's ridiculous expensive, and you gotta travel a lot of miles to find the ice. So
Yeah,
I totally
yeah.
respect that. Enjoy it while you can. Mine just graduated. My oldest just graduated high school, so travel soccer expenses are now over. But anyhow, that's not why we're talking. We're here to talk all things Big Al knowledge, and I loved, getting together with you before this call to kind of share a few notes, and we had a great conversation on just the buzzwords that are out there. There's always a ton in the automotive industry.
Really are.
Certainly, there's plenty today. A lot around big picture topics. Some type of buzzwords. Digital retailing comes around. But why don't we start there? What's your take on the latest buzzwords, and let's break down kind of the current state of digital retail.
So yeah, digital retail. That's the one that's been around for a while now, and it and
Long
it
time.
and it isn't going away. And actually, I despise the term digital retailing. It's modern retailing, and it's one of
Like
those
that.
things is we've got, like, the disruptors, the Carvanas, the Brooms, all the different stuff that people like to refer them as disruptors, but it's not disruptors. It's like we're still
Mhm.
talking about a small percentage of people who want to have an end all be all experience of shopping online.
Right.
At the end of the day, the thing that we've been able to identify in our group is people are looking for convenience. At first I used to think it was like
Mhm.
they want something fast and easy. People don't care about fast as long as it's convenient. They want it to fit
Mhm.
into their style. And the thing that we discovered is we've started moving down, and like we've actually set up a centralized modern retailing website that we use for our consumers. Is
Mhm.
the average consumer really still want the in dealership process, or at least they want that delivery process.
Right.
The average consumer. Um, and we also find too is most people have no idea what they want. It's like,
Mm.
so we build these tools for people to go on, click, I know what they want. Most people don't. It's like
Right.
any salesperson listening right now, they know they have a ton of customers that they get a phone call, they get a text message saying, hey, it's time for me to replace my lease. I need to be in this payment range. What can you do for me? Like, they don't even want to go online. They don't even want to use the
No,
tool. They still
100%.
rely on the intelligence of a salesperson to help them. So, when we start looking at that stuff, is adapting those tools to work and help our salespeople in their process and not redefine the process, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, and I have tons of stories talking to dealers as well as just personal experiences. Where you do start the process just thinking, what, I think I want a used car here. Maybe this
Yeah.
type of vehicle. And it's been that way for a long time. So what about these other buzzwords? I mean, we're I'm hearing a lot of CDPs, UDPs, CDXPs, consumer data platforms.
Yeah, the CDP, that's
I
the big one right now. I was talking to someone the other day. I think they use CDP 50 times in the conversation. And it's like, come on, it's like try to
Let's
find.
break it down. Let's break it down. What did you learn?
Well, at the end of the day, it's like there's a question I ask people all the time when we're going over something, and the question is, so what? So when you start presenting something, so people start going into CDPs, and matter of fact, I'm part of a 20 group right now, and that's part of the thing that we're doing. Let's truly define what a CDP is, because most people are presenting a tool or software that's saying, hey, it's a CDP, but at the end of the
Right.
day, it's like, okay, so what? You just gave me something. What do I do with that? If I can't, engage my customers with it, so you give me clean data. Guess what? I'm one person, it's like, what am I going to do with that? So what is a true CDP? And when, if you actually clean the data, what do I do with it then? So those are the questions you need to ask. Because again, like I said, I probably talk to at least one company a month saying, hey, guess what I can do for you? I can give you this
I
clean
got
data.
this.
Yeah, great.
Right.
What do I do with it now? How do I engage that customer with it now?
Has anyone given you the right answer? Like the silver bullet? Like,
No, no,
no.
no. And so,
Well,
and it's like, and that's a big question people ask is like, what tools am I using? It's, I don't think at this point I'm using any true CDP.
mhm,
Um, I'd say I'm using MAPs, again, and that's not my definition. My sister actually gave me that one, a marketing automated platform. Like I'm using
which
that,
is
but I don't want to sign up for a tool that might be obsolete in 6 months. Let's
right.
find something that actually is dialed in, that the APIs are set up correctly, that's agnostic, that I can use for any marketing platform. So
Yep.
if I sign up with new marketing agency, can you use my CDP? If
Yep.
if not, if I have to be exporting data, if you're, it has to make sense. So why sign up with something if it doesn't make sense?
Support your salespeople. Automate as much as you can. Right. Buzzwords aside, it's still the core functions of running a dealership.
Mm-hmm.
The last one that you and I discussed, which I do think is going to be fascinating to see how this uh, ultimately kind of uh, dodges left and right and fits into everything we do is this chat GPT and generally just kind of AI. So what's your
Yeah.
take on that? Have you tried something out? Are you using it?
Yeah. I mean,
Playing with it?
that's the best way I can understand, as far as AI, yeah, we've been using AI for a while. I think it makes sense. And again, going back to what I was talking before, as far as, retailing and, digital retailing, is that using the AI to coincide with our sales process, not create a new sales process. AI is very functional for maximizing our time. The most valuable thing that our employees have is their time. And I think we might talk about a little bit later, but it's something I discuss is our BDCs, within our organizations. It's like we completely waste our employees' time. It's like
Right.
think
Right.
think of, it's like I can sit in a BDC office right now and I can watch somebody. It's like you're telling an agent, here, call that customer. I want you to call that customer 25 times. They never answer the phone, but call them again tomorrow. It's like, what, why are we wasting our time calling people who
Right.
don't want to talk to us? That's where we can use AI to engage customers, get that person who raises their hand, say, hey, I want to have a conversation. Now have your employees talk to those people. As far as the chat GPT, I get, see,
Chat GPT.
so I come from Pontiac, so I always want to say GTP, even though it's GPT. It's very, very confusing. It's like a tongue twister.
Mhm.
I mean, there's really good things to use it, and it's funny. It's like I was sitting in a group of people the other day, a very diverse group, and when I say diverse, I'm like age span, from the youngest
Yep.
person in the group to the oldest person, about 40 years. And the second the chat GPT conversation came up, boy, those younger people had a lot to share, which I love. That's where I learned from, because I'll be the first person to say that it's like, if you sit me in a room with a bunch of people, there's a good chance I'm like the fourth to fifth intelligence level. It's like I want to learn from everybody, but it's and I've learned to use it myself. It's actually, personally, I use it more just to help myself with emails. When I'm sending stuff out. It's, I don't know how use it completely in marketing. I know a lot of different people use it, for writing the descriptions for their used cars, stuff like that. But it's when the technology comes out, it's just, let's play with it. That's how I feel. Let's play with it, see if it works, and it's trial by error, trial by error.
Well, I've seen tools integrating with Chat GPT. It is a tongue twister. I totally agree. Maybe to improve responses. And you've got a lot of you mentioned it, a lot of experience building BDCs, running BDCs, and tell us a little bit more about like what is your current BDC philosophy? How's that changed over the last decade?
So it's changed a lot. It's
20 years ago, I remember debating, like, do you do it inside the group? Do you not? Do you use a third party?
And it's one of those things, and I've done a shift. And the biggest one for me is, as we make decisions and as I make decisions, I always try to take that customer journey myself. So I base off, what's my experience when I go through things. And and I'll say this now, and I say the only difference between buying a car today and buying a car 80 years ago is how many people you have to talk to. I mean, at the end of the day,
it's true.
As a consumer, it's okay. I see an advertisement, I want to buy that. I have to reach out to the person selling it. And now it's like I have to talk to a bunch of people to do that. And most BDCs, and again, I know a lot of people who operate BDCs in their companies, and we do. Some are stores. We don't run a centralized BDC. I leave that up to stores to do that. But most of my stores do not have operating sales BDCs. So a couple of them do. But most BDCs, it's like fishing. You go out fishing, you cast, you catch a fish, you put your fishing pole down and go get somebody else to reel it in. And that's how most BDCs function nowadays. It's like you give somebody on the hook, they're appointment driven as opposed to helping the customer. And so most BDCs operate as just a level of frustration, for consumers. Because at the point that a consumer is reaching out to a dealership, they're ready to act. All the research shows that all the hours of shopping they do online, TradePending, all this other stuff, all these tools that are available to a consumer to get their questions answered are out there. By the time they reach out to us, they're ready to make action. And to talk to somebody who's not capable of helping and answering those questions is really not a service to the customer. And that's how most BDCs operate. And again, there's some highly functional ones that you have agents in there who are able to answer difficult questions, but most people don't want them to. It's like, oh no, just get them in. And so I wouldn't say I'm anti BDC. I definitely am more along the reins of let's redefine what a BDC is.
Pro consumer experience.
Exactly.
Versus the multi-point touch, multi-people getting involved and really disrupting a seamless flow of the consumer experience, sounds like.
Well, and I can do it. And any sales manager, finance manager, or salesperson who's been selling cars for a while can do that. It's like they could take a phone call from a consumer. They can answer those difficult questions about trade, about financing. They could close a customer on a single phone call. Not saying that that's the goal every single time, but if that's the journey you as a consumer wants to take, I should be able to offer that at my company. And so that's one of those things where it's like, let's get highly trained people. Let's create whatever title you want for them. But whoever's
so how do you handle the training? Because I mean, obviously you've got to rely on a lot of experienced folks. So how do you handle the training when you're empowering people that much?
Got to show them. It's simple as that.
Demonstrate. Good.
And it's one of those things, and even one of those. And I have certain strengths, and again, I'll never, pat myself on the back and say I'm great at everything, but I am good on the phone. I know I can take a phone call with just about anybody and have a positive result from that. And it's like, and I've even had to do that with different people in our organization who they're really good at the tail end of a deal, closing it, with finance and everything like that. But at the front end on how to, walk that customer to get to where you want to go. I always
Right.
explain to it's like, it's like those old books, choose your own adventure. You always have to give a consumer options, but as long as it's going in the direction we want to go.
Right. Right.
Instead of
Yeah.
forcing them, because we do that in the showroom. It's like you kind of try to force the hand and go that way. It's just, you just have to guide them. It takes a little bit
Right.
longer to get there, but it's just, a longer road.
Absolutely. No. Well, I assume that the net result for your sales team is just a more capable, confident, professional experience in the industry anyway. Does that kind of ultimately play out as you see it and encourage better tenure since you're empowering your folks so much?
I've noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
many of our locations, and it's been eye-opening for me actually, because we
Hmm.
go, it's like, it's my director of finance, he and I kind of work side by side on this as far as doing like our online sales, because, and I actually pulled him in as I want to do that because that was a key. It's like
Yeah.
when you have somebody who's ready to act, you need that person who can answer those difficult questions about interest rates and everything like that. And that's one thing is we're not trying to force a consumer any direction. But the second you hit them at that spot where, okay, wait, this is how I want to transact and where I want to transact, I need to be able to do that way with you. But it's been very eye-opening as we go through the stores on how many of our salespeople, and again, and listen, we're not a perfect organization. We do well, but we still have sales managers who train salespeople the way we were taught 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like,
No.
keep, just get a yes, bring it to the desk, let the desk work the deal. Where that just doesn't work for consumers anymore. You got to be able
No.
to answer the questions. You got to be able to
I
help
think
and have intelligence.
Feldman clearly a leader in the industry. Big Al, you obviously been there, building all these processes. You brought up interest rates though, which today, let's face it, is a completely different environment from an interest rate perspective than even 6 months ago. So with interest rates being where they are, has that changed with your approach to reaching out to your audience,
Oh yeah,
engaging with consumers when you're talking about payments? Tell
yeah.
me more about that.
Completely. It's, we've had to definitely change our messaging and how we advertise. It's, for the longest time, we didn't become Michigan's number one Chevy dealer by, not being aggressive, and
Right.
so we always
Right.
had to advertise low payments, let's get that done, and we just can't do that anymore. So yeah, we've
Right.
had to change up our messaging. It's like what's that value proposition that we're going to offer to consumers. So it's completely changed. And then actually the consumers, it's the weirdest thing too. It's like we've had a 20% increase in cash deals,
Hmm.
across stores here in Michigan. And I mean, I don't have no idea where people are getting this money. I don't know if they're cashing out their
Hmm.
401ks or what, but it just, people are like, because the consumer demand is still there, regardless of how low
Right.
interest rates are. I had a conversation with somebody on Monday, and they're a different part of the country, and they didn't see an increase in cash, but we've noticed it here. But yeah, it's interesting because everything I've known as far as how to advertise to the consumer, I've had to change because of
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Well, I wonder how long we're going to be in this higher interest rate environment. I think we're here for quite a while. So, I think that the change is here to stay. But who knows? All we know is it's an evolving world. Obviously, trade pending. We know a lot about vehicle valuations. Oh boy, have those changed in the last year. We've seen ups and downs and everything, and really, I've seen it vary in different markets, right? So Michigan's a lot different than what's going on in Florida when it comes to vehicle valuation. So used cars, big part of Feldman's story. How do you source used cars? How are you handling trades? How do you follow valuations? Tell me more about your approach there.
So I mean, we made a strategic move about 8 years ago, actually, to be more aggressive on our used cars. Our goal was to be 1-to-1, used car to new car. And so we became very aggressive on it a long time ago. We do a lot of data mining. We're very aggressive with our data mining. in the service lane, buying back our consumer vehicles, showing the value proposition to the customers. Listen, hey, I can go buy the auction, I can buy this vehicle for 20,000, but you as a consumer, it's worth me paying an extra $3,000 to you.
Yeah.
Showing a value proposition to them, and so we've really never had a huge issue with vehicle acquisition. I tell you,
Hmm.
the difficult thing now, coming out of the past 3 years of inventory issues, and high gross, is that, for the first time, we're seeing people with unbelievable amounts of negative equity that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's where the used vehicle, situations come hard. I mean, you used to be able to see people, $5,000 to $7,000 negative equity, no big deal. But now we're looking at $12,000 to $18,000, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just different conversations we're having to have with consumers. And ironically, it's more our staff having to deal with it, because what we're seeing is consumers are prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. They know. They know. They
They
made that
know, they
decision.
come in, it's like, here we're at, they're like, all right, I understand, I got to write a check for 10 grand this time,
They paid 20,000 over MSRP 2, 3 years ago. They get it, right? So,
yeah,
but that's all the more like, training, the humanizing. Don't pass some people. You're like, okay, here's Big Al. He's going to help me work through this situation that I have. Show me the solutions.
yeah,
Show me my options. Can't do that all online. Well, that's good. 1-to-1, I think, is where most dealers have figured out that they want to be there. It's hard to get there though. So getting close to our time here, maybe you could, with all your experience, give us some final thoughts, maybe some good words of wisdom to folks in the industry looking to be Big Al one day. How do you get there? What do you do? Obviously, sticking with a group like Feldman has been a great piece of your career. But
I
tell
mean,
us.
I listen, I don't know if anything I ever say would be considered wisdom. But the one thing I could just say is, like a motto that I've always kept to myself, especially if you want to keep growing, is I always want to be the dumbest person in a room. you
Yeah.
know and it's anytime I find myself in a room where everybody's looking to me for the knowledge, I'm not learning and I'm not growing. So that's what I always say. I always want to surround myself with smart people and listen,
Mm.
just because if you can get a room of smart people who know what they're talking about, just shut up, listen to them, take notes, learn, and apply. That's the only advice I could give, as far as talking about wanting to be like me, and nobody wants to be like me.
Well,
maybe
I
carry
think
the
there's
maybe carry the reputation.
I think you're selling yourself a little short there, but I love the saying too. If you find yourself the smartest person in the room, you need to leave the room. You
Yeah,
know,
it's,
yeah,
like back when I was selling cars, it's like it's one of those things where it's like, if I found myself in a circle of 3 or 4 people talking, okay, I'm wasting time right now. I got to walk away from this conversation because I'm not
yeah,
talking to a customer, you know.
right,
So
right.
it's just always trying to put myself in a situation where I can learn and get better. That's where always.
I couldn't agree more. I had the good fortune of entering the industry, doing M&A work for Dominion back in 2006. And my job was walking around NADA, meeting other entrepreneurs, learning about the industry, kind of, from you know those discussions with innovative vendors, new ideas, as well as talking to dealers and understanding, just kind of the problems. Being a student of the industry has just been, transformative in my own life. So I think it's good advice. Stay humble, surround yourself with good people, and keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Big Al from Feldman Automotive Group, thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. We really appreciate it, Matthew. Thanks for putting on obviously our great event here at the Cannonball Run. And up next, we've got Alex Mellon, who will be walking us through the first step of the customer journey, driving traffic to your website with AI. So stay tuned. We look forward to the next session.
All right.
Thanks, Al.
All right.
Good to see you.